Hello everyone, in this Blender video tutorial we will be modeling an apple. So let's begin by adding a background image of an apple. We'll be picking this file here. I will be placing a link in the video description to get this image for your needs, so you can also use it as a background image. We'll shift into side view. We will begin by adding a single vertex, which we will move down along the z-axis at the bottom of the apple and extrude it. Trace one side of the apple like this. This, this, and form a small pit at the top, and use 0 as the y coordinate for the last vertex. We will now add a screw modifier to turn this into a solid. We'll check flip to flip the normals, merge vertices, and we will also add a subdivision surface modifier with 2 subdivisions. Scale this a little bit like this. You can save this file as apple right now if you want. I like to do that. Now we need to make this apple look a little bit more organic, so we will apply this modifier. We'll select this vertex, this one, and this one. Enable proportional editing with connected, and pick the smooth fall off, and we will move those vertices up along the z-axis to create like 4. That might be a bit too much. Make the circle bigger like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we'll do the same thing here. Select this one, this one, this one, and this one. And move them down along the z-axis. Maybe a little more. All right. That looks good. Now we will add a stalk. So for this we will create a path. Move it up along the z-axis. Rotate it like this. Scale it down. Move it down a bit. Scale it down further. Again, move it down. Okay. And we'll grab the top vertex. Select sharp. Apply rotation and scale, and move this along the y-axis. Curve it a bit like this. It's a bit bigger than in the image, but it's all right. Now we will fill all of this curve, a resolution of 2. Increase some depth like this. It's bigger at the top, so we'll scale up the top of the stalk like this. Switch back into solid mode. It's smooth. And then we will convert this curve to a mesh. As you can see, it's got a lot of loops. So we can remove a few, like this, select this, edge ring, select checker deselect to select half of these edges, and then we'll select edge loops and dissolve edges. There we go. Now we will add a face here. Actually, remove that face. We'll make a grid fill instead. Well, let's just make this a regular face then. And insert more faces like this. We're gonna be pulling this thing along its Z normal like this to the top a bit. We can add one subdivision modifier. And we will also randomize those vertices to make the stalk look more organic. So randomize, this is way too much. Let's turn this down to 0.02. Okay, maybe scale it up a bit. Like this. Then we will create the leaf. So we will also begin by adding one vertex. Place it here. And extrude it. I think I'm going to hide the stalk for now. It's going to get in the way. Like this, extrude, trace a general shape of the leaf. We don't need to trace the exact shape, as we will be using a texture to render it. This, join these two, create an edge here, select these and add a face, add another face, another face. We'll select all of these vertices. We'll create a grid. And it doesn't work, so let's just add a face and create a grid manually. And give this leaf a bit of width with a solidify modifier like this. Alright. Well, I'm pretty much ready to add some materials to this apple. And bring back the stalk and move the leaf like this. So first, let's split this apple into two hemispheres. So select one edge here, one edge here, edge loops, and mark seam. Now, let's add a material for this apple. Set the diffuse intensity to 0.3. The specular intensity to 0.3 also. We'll add a mirror, reflectivity of 0.1, Fresnel of 1.5, and blend of 2. And we'll also check receive transparency as we will be using it on the leaf. So let's add a texture. We will be picking an image. We'll be picking this one here, adding texture. Set the red to 0.8, green to 0.8, and blue to 0.6. Increase saturation to 1.1. Repeat twice with mirror along the X and the Y axis. And then let's go into UV mapping. So UV editing. Let's add the texture here. And now unwrap. So we have two hemispheres here. So let's rotate this one by 180 degrees and put it right on top of the other. Like this. Rotate them like this. Scale them up. So you grab as much of the texture as possible, like this. There we go. We can select our UV map here. We're gonna add a second texture because apples are not completely smooth and we've got a bit of displacement in their texture. So we're gonna use a cloud type of texture for the second texture. Increase the depth to 24. Color to 0.5. We can pick a global texture with a cube projection. Let's pick a normal of 0.1. A weak displacement. Space, view space, and let's pick the best quality. We can save. Now let's add a material for the stalk. Let's set the diffuse intensity to 0.5. Specular intensity to 0.05. Hardness 20. We will also enable a receive transparency. Now for the texture, we'll be using two textures for the stalk also. So the first one will be an image. We'll be using this texture here. I will be placing a link in the description of this video to get this texture so you can also use it. Let's increase red to 1.1. We'll be using a global mapping, a cube projection. Let's add a second texture. It will be a cloud type of texture. Pick hard noise. Size 0.15. Depth maximum. Will be a global texture with a cube projection. We'll be using a normal of 1 space view space with best quality. Now let's move on to the leaf. Oh, and make sure you select black. So stalk is not purple. And also for the apple, select black as a color. Now as for the leaf, let's use a diffuse intensity of 0.5, specular intensity to 0. We'll be enabling transparency, alpha at 0. Enable a receive transparency. Now let's add a texture. We'll be using an image texture. Using our apple.png image for this. Apply rotation and scale. Select all vertices. We'll be going to the UV editor. And we will unwrap this. Okay, so we need to mirror it along the y-axis. Scale it down a bit. Rotate. All right. We're going to be scaling this down a bit. Like this. Okay, and then we will go to mapping, pick UV map, enable alpha so that the part around the leaf that is not green in the picture will be transparent. We're going to set the contrast to 1.5. Now we still have to give this apple some reflections. So for this, we'll begin by scaling down this apple a bit because it doesn't fit into our render box. Like this. Make it a bit bigger. There we go. Can rotate the apple along the z-axis. Or not, depending what you prefer to see. So we're gonna have to put this apple into a box. So like this. Scale up the box. So the camera is also into the box. Move into wireframe mode. Select all these vertices, move them along the x-axis like that. And we're gonna give this box a material, set the specular intensity to 0, we'll keep it white, that's fine. And we also have to include some lights, of course. We're gonna be using 2 lights. The first one will be a point light with an energy of 3. Enable array shadow. Putting it here. Second light will be a heavy light. It's going to be weak at only 0.1, and we can rotate it like this. And like this, so it's pointing at the apple. Alright, and we can try first render to have an idea. As you can see, it's looking pretty good like that. Notice that we see the box in the background. It's also possible to render on a transparent background if you prefer to have a transparent background. So go into the render options and select transparent, and then go into scale it along the y-axis and do the material of the box and check sky. So our apple keeps the reflections created by the box, but we don't see the box. We have a transparent background instead. Or you can keep the box, and we will also be increasing the quality of the shadows a bit like this. Use constant QMC, soft size of 0.5, and increase this to 10 samples. Note that this will increase the rendering time by a significant amount. As you can see, the shadows cast on the box are a lot smoother like this. And this concludes our Apple modeling tutorial. If you're interested in seeing more tutorials on 3D modeling, please visit my YouTube channel. And until then, happy modeling, everyone.